least one curl. Yeah. Why is this skin lighter than that? Well, I guess because it's covered up by. I got at least one. Oh, record. So, shaved off my facial hair, my little whiskers. Well, actually, I think these are whiskers now. Come back in. It takes a long time for my facial hair to grow in, so I choose not to cut it off. And then plus, it reveals the fact that I have multiple chins, more than one. So this upload is going to be about this upload is a review of Breaking Bad season 4 episode 7, named Problem Dog, which is interesting that they would give it that title. I guess it's not interesting. I just don't see. I guess they give it that title in order to give as a means to give more gravity towards one particular scene in the episode. Now, let's see. I'm just gonna jump right into it. So you see Junior, Walter, Mrs. White, you see Hank, you see Marie, you see Gustavo, you see, oh my God, you see so many people in this episode. They're in and out. I guess I'll start with Pinkman first, because he's the. I go straight to the heaviest stuff I consider. I go straight to the heaviest character, I think. So, I mean, since the beginning of this series, I feel like they've been leaning on the Pinkman character in order to drum up the best source of drama, I guess. They've been leaning on this character in order to create some of the more watchable scenes. Now, they've succeeded in that, but I think they're taking this character through his emotional low. I guess this is his emotional bottom. I guess. I don't know. He is, again, he's completely. I think the actor doesn't get enough credit. I tell you that right now, because he's putting a lot, not crying on command or anything like that, but he's putting a lot into this character, and it's so believable. You feel for this character, because it's like in this present episode, he's reliving murdering the scientist a couple episodes back. He's reliving it over and over again. And now, on top of that, he's getting pushed and pulled in two different directions. Well, I should say pulled in two different directions by Mr. White and this Gustavo character, because they're trying to realign his loyalty, is the best way to put it. Well, they put it that way. They're trying to realign his loyalty, or trying to confuse him, basically. So he's torn. He's like, these people really care for me, but Mr. White really cares for me, but Mr. White wants me to kill them. I had to go back and try to remember why this whole situation came about. I can't recall. I feel like Pinkman. No, that's where it came from. Pinkman was upset because of. Pinkman was upset because they were through 6 degrees of separation, I guess is the best way to put it. They employed a preteen child to distribute some of the drugs at the street level, and he just happened to be the nephew of a girl that Pinkman's dating. Small world, of course. And he's upset that that's even happening, and then the kid gets killed, and it snowballs from there. And then Gustavo's like, well, I guess the easiest way to solve this is just to kill Pinkman. But Mr. White's like, no, don't kill Pinkman. I need him. And that's where this whole, I guess where this whole workplace altercation comes about. I'm trying to put it lightly, but if this is really based on a real story, there's a little bit more than that. But that's where Pinkman's at. He's struggling with all that, and he wound up, in order to save his life, he had to kill. Mr. White came up with the brilliant idea to kill the other assistant. But in actuality, he saved Mr. White's and his own life by doing that, because this other assistant took detailed notes. So he basically could do what Mr. White did, but probably not as good. But he basically could do what Mr. White did. Now, I'm gonna leave that for anybody who's interested. I got a little bit of eye burgers. I'm gonna leave that for anybody who's interested to watch this episode or the series in total and see what you think about this episode, because that scene where he goes back to like the support meeting, and he basically breaks down dry snitching. He tells on himself basically, I killed a dog. It was interesting that he picked the dog. That's why I thought it was that they named the show Problem Dog. I mean, they named the title of the episode Problem Dog. And he says he replaces, of course, the other guy. He replaces the assistant with the dog and says, I killed the dog. And he's trying to show remorse towards it, but people are like, hey, we don't give a fuck, you know, and they're going at him like it doesn't matter, you know. But he shouldn't have really said all that in that setting. But he's going through it, and I'm curious to see where this goes. Where was I going with that? I guess I just jumped to the next thing. Oh, okay. Now the tie-in to that is Hank, the brother-in-law, which is a DEA agent. He had a dinner with Mr. White. Mr. White gets drunk off wine and all things, and basically, I think Hank had made his mind up that this assistant was their Heisenberg when Mr. White's really Heisenberg, but Mr. White being drunk and basically writing this guy off as being Heisenberg flipped Hank's detective hat back on, and he decides to go out even harder. And now he's like, a few episodes ago he was like in the neighborhood, but now he's pretty much knocking on the door of where this whole operation is. And I'm like, oh snap, let's see what happens here. I'm really interested to see what happens there. But Hank's walking in this episode, which is, that's pretty cool. I guess he's walking in this episode, and he's walking in this episode. He's I guess they're doing that. They're syncing him walking with him starting on this case to show his level of determination, I'm assuming. So they're moving on with that, and Hank's like, I think it's Gustavo. I'm like, I think it's this guy, and his partner and his boss are like, oh man, this guy. Oh my. We don't know. We haven't been, as the audience, we haven't been let in that maybe they're working for him or maybe they're not. But I always assume that, especially with cops. I mean, look, because you're a cop, because you're military, just because you're a doctor, just because you hold some position, I guess, that has a stigma. Well, I guess the stigma is negative. That has something attached to it that would mean that meaning like honor and dignity, all that bull crap, doesn't mean you're susceptible to a lot of money. Okay? Junior's still whining about his new car. He has more lines in this episode, which I like. Mrs. White is blown away by how much money Mr. White makes, but I think Mr. White only does that in order to shock her out of going along with this laundering, but we're going to see how far that goes. Sorry, I got a piece of gum. Now you're dealing with Mr. White, Mrs. White, Hank, I did that. Maurice, in and out of there. Who else comes with us? I did Pinkman already. I guess. No, I mean, that scene was pretty interesting. Mr. White's throwing his money around. It's obviously, I feel like it's obviously in a way to try to overwhelm her so she could start having second thoughts about doing this money laundering. But she's like, nah, I'm just gonna keep going. And they're like, nah, your balls aren't bigger than mine. Basically, that's what they're doing. They're what's it? They're cock measuring or something like that, I guess. But this is wife and husband, which is really weird. Now, what else happens in this episode that's interesting? I think that's it. It's a decent episode. It's a pretty good episode. I'm waiting to see what's happening in the next episode. So, until next time.